and then we will answer questions that have been pre-submitted by community members. Zoom attendees can submit questions in real time using the question and answer function on your screen. Agency representatives are on the Zoom meeting responding live. As the interpreter mentioned, Spanish interpretation and ASL are available on the Zoom platform. Note that questions submitted to the YouTube live chat will not be answered. You can also scan the QR code on this screen to join us via Zoom. Supervisor Barger, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I have a few important updates to share with you this afternoon. For those of you that have not heard, on Friday, FEMA announced that they've extended the deadline for all property owners to submit right of entry forms to opt into debris removal to April 15th. This includes commercial properties who should also submit their ROEs before the deadline. Additionally, FEMA announced another key milestone that owner-occupied multifamily housing properties are now eligible for private property debris removal program. Both of these changes will allow residents more breathing room to fully understand their options and make an informed decision about debris removal. These updates will ensure residents get the help that they need and deserve. It is critical that you submit your opt-in form to preserve your right to participate in this program. If you are uncertain about your plans, submit the form anyway. If you ultimately decide to opt out and handle debris removal on your own, that is your choice. However, all properties must be cleared, and there will be a deadline to clear them. The Army Corps program is moving at an unprecedented speed, and I want to express my gratitude for the resources the federal government has provided for our community. Never has debris removal been so quick. It has been incredible to witness the great work the Army Corps and their contractors are doing. Across both burn areas, over 12,000 parcels are eligible for the Army Corps program. Nearly 10,000 property owners have opted in. Approximately 1,000 have opted out, and roughly 1,000 have yet to submit their forms. Reaching those remaining property owners is crucial. As we continue to move the debris removal into the removal phase, we must also keep a focus on rebuilding. Last week, the governor made a critical announcement that will greatly accelerate the restoration and modernization of utilities and infrastructure that serve this community. I want to thank the governor for understanding the critical nature of the infrastructure repair work ahead of us. That work comes with opportunities to pursue undergrounding the electrical infrastructure, expanding municipal sewers to properties on septic, bringing in high-speed fiber backbone lines, and other enhancements. The time is now for us to pursue undergrounding electrical distribution lines throughout the entire Altadena region. If we operate with a single trench, the cost of undergrounding is significantly reduced. With the executive order, there is an opportunity to move quickly to do this work and minimize impacts and disruption. Finally, I want to emphasize that I am committed to speeding up the process for rebuilding. Regional planning has received 132 applications and has approved 23. Of these 23 applications approved by regional planning and submitted to Public Works for building permits, only 2 have been approved. Of the 2 permits approved, they are both still pending clearances, one for debris removal and the other for clearances through other departments. I'm being told by our county departments that they should be issued this week. However, we must move faster. At tomorrow's board meeting, I will introduce a motion to cut through the red tape for departments to pick up the pace. I've said it before, government must be part of the solution, not an obstacle. Finally, I want to touch on the Army Corps' use of the Altadena Golf Course as a staging facility. The Army Corps held an open house this past Saturday to provide transparency on their operations. The event was held in collaboration with partners from the South Coast Air Quality Management District and LA County Public Works. My understanding is that the expanded operations at the golf course by the Army Corps started today. Colonel Avichal from the Army Corps of Engineers will speak with this in more detail during this meeting. We also have LA County Public Health here to provide answers to questions. We are being transparent. We want to ensure that the public understands the need to use Altadena Golf Course as we move toward recovery. It's vital for us to work together, but also be transparent in how we do it. With that, let's get started.
Thank you, Supervisor. And as a reminder for those who are on YouTube and submitting questions via the live chat, questions submitted via the YouTube live chat will not be answered. We encourage you to join us via Zoom using the QR code on your screen now and submit your questions using the Q&A function found at the bottom of the Zoom screen. We'll leave the slide up for just a bit while our next presenter, FEMA, provides their remarks.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Hiro Toya. I'm with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. And thank you, Supervisor Barger, for having us today. And also, I just want to build on some of the comments you provided regarding the extension for the right of entry deadline, and also the inclusion of owner-occupied multifamily properties in the debris removal program. I also want to touch on the continued temporary housing assistance and an overview of the FEMA Individual Assistance Program tonight here. So first on the debris removal, once again, the debris removal right of entry deadline has been extended. Now, this process is managed by Los Angeles County Department of Public Works, and they're sort of the first line in receiving the right of entry. They'll review it and pass it on to the Army Corps of Engineers for them to work with the contractors on. And the deadline for submission has been extended to April 15th. So even if you have insurance coverage for debris removal, we still encourage you to submit an ROE form. And the insurance benefits for the debris removal must be used first, but any remaining costs may be covered by the program. And all property owners should submit an ROE form, whether opting in or out, by the deadline, so the LA County can make appropriate determinations. You can do this online or in person at the Disaster Recovery Center. And for more details, you can visit recovery.lacounty.gov /debris removal, or call LA County Public Works Debris Hotline at 844-347-3332. And if you're like me, I just Google everything. So if you Google LA wildfire debris removal right of entry, you should get to where you need to go online. The next one is regarding the expanded eligibility for debris removal, and that goes to those multifamily property owners. So we have made a determination that owner-occupied multifamily residential properties, such as condos, are now eligible for the federally funded debris removal program. And this does include condos, duplexes, and other what we might consider residential commercial properties with at least one owner-occupied unit. And this means that each affected owner must submit a right of entry form. And if the property is part of an HOA, then the HOA also must submit a right of entry. Now, rental-only properties, such as apartment buildings, they do remain ineligible, and we'll review those on a case-by-case basis. But generally, for those apartment buildings where it's purely rental, landlords must use their private insurance for debris removal. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our temporary housing assistance update. So FEMA does continue to offer housing assistance for those that were affected by this fire and those who need that housing support. So we did have this transitional sheltering assistance program. That was our hotel program. That program is no longer taking new participants. But if you're already in that TSA program and you still need housing assistance, you may be eligible for FEMA's rental assistance program, in which we provide financial assistance for survivors to go and rent longer-term housing options. So just continue to work with us, continue to communicate with us as we reach out to you. Let us know what your needs are, and we'll do everything we can to provide what you are legally entitled to. Now, if your insurance payouts are delayed, you may qualify for some FEMA rental assistance. And renters, you don't have to be a homeowner. Renters displaced by FEMA, by the disaster, can also receive FEMA assistance to cover costs for a new place to live. Now, if you're already receiving our rental assistance program, you may be eligible for a continuation of that. We provide some upfront assistance, and as you have continued needs, we will be in touch with you and may ask for some documentation like receipts or proof of payment for your new rental property or some kind of lease or something to show us that you have continued need for the temporary housing. And to check for your eligibility specifically for that, you can give us a call at 1-800-621-3362, visit disasterassistance.gov, or visit one of the disaster recovery centers. And just finally, we do have multiple components of this individual assistance program. One part is where we provide assistance for housing, and I just talked a little bit about that. There's another category that we call other needs assistance, and that could help with any uninsured personal property loss, medical expenses, or transportation costs that you might have incurred as a result of the fire. And then, of course, we have our other federal family member here, the Small Business Administration. Kind of a bit of a misnomer, they're not just for small businesses. They can help homeowners and renters. SBA offers disaster loan program with low interest rates for homeowners, renters, and businesses to cover repair and rebuilding expenses beyond insurance coverage. So that deadline to apply for SBA and for FEMA assistance is today, March 31st, 2025. We have until 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. And once again, to apply for or check on your FEMA application, you can go to disasterassistance.gov, call us at 1-800-621-3362, or visit us at the one of the disaster recovery centers. And I'll just add that the application deadline for individual assistance and SBA is today. We do plan on keeping the disaster recovery center until there's no longer a need for that. So we'll continue to work with the state and the county to determine when the appropriate closure date is. So even though the application deadline is today, you can still visit us at the two disaster recovery centers that we have open. And this is a process like anything else. So please bear with us. We may ask for documentation. It's part of what we have to do on our end to be compliant. So just please continue to work with us, and either online, over the phone, or at the disaster recovery centers. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our next presenter from Public Works. Emiko, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Emiko Thompson with Public Works. Just to reiterate the good news that the deadline to submit your rider entry forms has been extended to April 15th. And this is good because that means more people can choose to opt in to the government-run debris removal program. So property owners are strongly encouraged to submit their ROE or opt out by April 15th if they choose to do so. And this will all help accelerate the debris removal process. And just to recap, you can submit your ROEs online, email, disaster recovery centers, or send it in by mail, whatever is most convenient for you. And all that information can be found on the recovery.lacounty.gov website. Also, just a quick update on the ROE progress. So progress is being made on the processing of the ROEs to date. As Supervisor mentioned, over 9,800 ROEs have been received, and more than 7,600 ROEs have been transmitted to Army Corps. So we'll continue to make good progress on this. And also, in terms of new deadlines, this applies to opt-outs too. So for those of you who opt out of the government-run program, site cleanups and debris removal must be completed in accordance with your fire debris removal permit guidelines. And all this needs to be done by July 15th rather than the end of June. So you have additional time to complete that as well. And that completes my update. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we're moving on to Colonel Avichal with the Army Corps. Colonel.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to speak here today. Just give a quick update on where we're at. So as of this morning, we had 114 debris crews and 89 asbestos abatement crews working in Altadena. 2 weeks ago, just for reference, we had 80 debris removal crews and 62 abatement crews. So we continue to ramp up operations, but again, we do not do so at the expense of public health and safety. This afternoon, we had just finished 650 final sign-offs. That is when we return those rights of entry back to the county. And then we also completed debris removal at the Las Flores Water Company and are 50% complete with debris removal at the Rubio Canyon Water Company basins as well. Just to reiterate what has already been said a few times, so I'd like, please submit your rights of entry. For those that have not done so, it's really important to either opt in or opt out, and to have a plan for what you plan to do for your debris removal going into the future. So a quick update on Altadena Golf Course staging and reduction site. So last week we did do some outreach with the neighbors or the residents directly adjacent to the golf course, both with door hangers and info sheets about the staging area. Additionally, on Saturday morning, we had an open house for the residents to be able to ask questions. This morning, we did essentially what I'll consider to be a warm start. So we focused on weighing empty vehicles so that we get the tare weight so that when they come loaded in the future, we're able to do that process a little bit quicker. We tested our traffic plan to make sure we had good flow into and out of the site, and then tested our mitigation measures, mainly in the form of misters, water points, as well as our air monitoring system as well. So we are also working on our live data website, which should be live right now, and I'll post that in the chat, that website as well, so you can see real time the air monitoring equipment on site. And then that concludes my portion of the brief. So back over to you.
Thank you, Colonel. And now we'll go to our last presenter, Shandy Treelor with the McChrystal Group. Shandy, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Supervisor Barger, for having us here today and everyone who's listening in. My colleague Chloe and I are here today on behalf of McChrystal Group to share some important information about 3 upcoming community listening sessions our firm is leading, focused on soliciting community input on emergency alerts and evacuations, the procedures that were used during the recent Eaton fire. These sessions are part of our independent review McChrystal team is conducting on behalf of the Los Angeles County government to conduct a comprehensive third-party review on emergency alerts, evacuations during the Eaton and Palisades fire. As many of you know, this review was commissioned by the board in January. So we're offering 3 opportunities to participate in these sessions. 2 will be in-person sessions and 1 will be a virtual option. These sessions will be a blend of small and large group discussions to ensure we can hear from as many residents as possible about their experiences. I want to clarify that these are not information sessions. We will not be providing information about the recovery efforts or the incident response. Rather, they'll specifically be designed to get at your feedback as the community about the emergency alerts and evacuation procedures you experienced during the fires. We'll also provide ASL interpretation and Spanish language translation as all sessions to ensure everyone can fully participate. If you're unable to attend any of the sessions, we will also have a survey available that you can provide similar input through. We hope this will provide a valuable opportunity for you to provide input that will help us shape future emergency management response system related to the emergency alerts and evacuations. And your experience and feedback will directly inform the findings and the recommendations in our independent assessment. Registration for this the first in-person sessions are being displayed on the slides, and this information, along with registration information for the virtual sessions on May 7th, will be made available through District 5's communication channels. And that'll happen probably within the next week or so. We encourage you to register early for these sessions to help us plan accordingly and effectively facilitate a session where we can ensure everyone's voice will be heard. Thanks for your time. And if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A.
Thank you. And now we're going to transition to the question and answer portion of our evening. The following questions were submitted ahead of tonight's community meeting, and we will answer as many of them as we can in the allotted time. As a reminder, you can find answers to frequently asked questions on recovery.lacounty.gov/Altadena. Zoom participants can also submit questions in real time using the Q&A function found at the bottom of your screen. So for those of you who are on YouTube and would like to submit questions, we encourage you to join us via Zoom using the QR code on your screen. Our first question is for Corey with the Small Business Administration. Can you help explain the SBA deadline today and why it's important for impacted residents and property owners to make sure they are signed up? What resources are available, and ultimately, what should they know about the opportunities they may lose out on if they don't sign up?
That's an outstanding question. So the deadline today is for physical damage. So any business or nonprofit or homeowner or renter that had physical damage. So the things we can see, we can always see physical damage, or building burned, roof blown off, different things like that. So if you have physical damage as a homeowner renter, which is key for the residents and property owners, that deadline is today. Now, for the businesses and nonprofits that may have sustained economic injury only, that deadline to apply is actually October 8th, 2025. So, but if you have a combination of physical loss and economic injury, please apply by today. And the one thing that I always say is that for the resources or that they might lose out on is that if you're waiting for insurance or you're waiting for any kind of other recoveries to come into play and you do not actually submit the application for SBA, let's say, 60 days down the road or 90 days down the road, you realize that your insurance was not enough to meet the need. Well, now with the deadline having passed, you may have missed out on crucial funding, because the one thing that I always tell everyone is that even if you're approved for the loan, keep in mind, whether you're a homeowner, renter, business owner, or nonprofit, you're under no obligation to take the loan. So it's so important to at least make sure you have that safety net available just in case you want to use it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our next question is for Public Works. Many properties will need a lot of dirt to fill in where excavation has removed it, partly because many will need to recompact their soil before a new foundation can be laid for the rebuild. Trucks are carrying tons of dirt from the catch basin on the New York Drive to dumps elsewhere. Can we set aside a bunch of it for use by Altadena fire survivors who have chosen to rebuild?
Hello, this is Ray Castellanos from Building and Safety, LA County, Public Works. People who have raised floors currently may not need to backfill a lot. They're only removing 6 inches of soil, and we're not requiring that you do a grading permit to either compact, backfill, or raise the elevations. Your designers can design raised floors and use the same site as needed. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question is for Public Works and/or Army Corps. Loma Alta Park is slated to be reopened on May 10th. Will the adjacent properties within 250 yards of the park be cleared by then? And this question is for public health testing, will be done at the park to ensure it is safe for the community to visit?
So I can answer the portion about the adjacent properties. So we are prioritizing those properties to be complete with debris removal. Again, we have to make sure that those rights of entries are in and processed by the county before we can do so. But again, those are a priority to be able to do so prior to the opening on May 10th.
Yeah, hi, this is Anish Mahajan from Public Health, Dr. Mahajan. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Regarding the question, what testing will be done at the park upon clearance of the debris? At this stage, I just want to remind everybody that Public Health is performing a set of testing of soil in a representative manner, meaning that in multiple geographic areas in both the Palisades and the Eaton fire zones, that includes testing of damaged properties, partially damaged properties, undamaged locations, as well as locations that are just adjacent to the burn scar area. We expect results of this soil sampling to be available hopefully next week, and we intend to share those results with the public. The soil samples are largely prior to the debris removal, but there will be soil sample results that we will share where phase 2 debris removal has been completed. Until then, we don't know until we look at these results and get them back from the lab, which we hope to next week. It's hard to say, what we're going to find, upon completion of phase 2, but phase 2 debris removal, which all of us are very interested to look at. As soon as we have that to share, we will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next question is for the Department of Insurance, and it asks, can you work with our insurance companies to help push remediations along? We are waiting for approvals and it's almost April.
Sure. Thank you for the question. So in general, insurance companies have a timeline that they're supposed to follow as far as paying out claims. So typically they've got to respond to or acknowledge a claim within 15 days of you filing the claim. They've got 40 days from that date to approve or deny a claim. And if they approve that claim, they've got to pay that within 30 days. So, especially now that we're approaching April, it's been about 3 months since the fires, and many of you have probably filed claims extremely close or early in that timeline, that those timelines may have already been exceeded, and in which case you need to give us a call at the Department of Insurance so we can contact your insurance company and investigate on your behalf. If you're still within those timeframes, like you didn't file the claim until like maybe a month or so ago, definitely worth it to keep in constant communication with your insurer to see where they're at in progress. And of course, you can always give us a call to ask for help. Now, on a bigger picture, the department has filed several notices to the insurance companies, advising them of how they should be handling things like remediation, smoke damage, living expenses, and so forth, and making sure they're properly investigating those claims. And, many insurance carriers have followed up with those notices and bulletins that we've sent out. But, our job is to make sure that those insurance companies are following through on their policies. And in some cases, where remediation or smoke damage just isn't covered in a policy, there's really nothing we can do to force those insurers to cover what's not covered in that policy. But in general, your insurance company should be investigating and addressing these claims in a proper timeline. But also, I just wanted to add that in a couple of weeks on April 22nd, the insurance commissioner is going to be hosting a virtual town hall, again, April 22nd, to focus on the claims process, including things like remediation and smoke damage and a lot of the issues we've been seeing lately. So I'll put the link to the register that on the chat. Definitely advise everyone to attend, ask the questions that you want to be heard, and hopefully the commissioner will address it then.
Thank you very much. Our next question is for the assessor's office. If I rebuild a new house that is twice the square footage of the burned down house, will it be assessed as a new house for property tax purposes?
Hi, this is Jerry from the assessor's office. When you rebuild, once you've applied for misfortune and calamity, there are two provisions, and basically both say that if you build something that was substantially the equivalent of what was there before, your old trended base value from the prior property will be restored. So there's two different provisions, and they both have a test of comparability to let you know that this is considered comparable. One is a test of value. So if whatever you build value-wise is within 120% of the value of the original property prior to the damage, then regardless of different square footages under that provision, it'd be considered comparable. Anything over that would be added as new construction. And you would get a new base year value. You'd be taxed on that. And that would be merely added. That portion in excess would be added to your original tax base. The other provision merely says that as long as you build something similar, then we're going to restore your trended base value. Its comparability test is based on square footage and utility, which means if you had a residential house that was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and you build another, you replace it with a 3-bedroom bath that's, the same square footage, then your old base value will be restored to the new property. So in this scenario, if you double its square footage, you'll be protected up to the square footage under one test that was originally there, and anything in excess would be considered new construction and added onto your old tax base. And on the other test, anything in excess of 120% of value would then be added onto your prior tax base.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up to that. According to my property tax record, my home has a 720 square foot of living space, but the actual living area is 1,000 square feet. What will be the square footage used for the like-for-like rebuilding purposes?
It would be whatever we have on our records. So if there's an issue, it's possible. Sometimes we're behind new construction when someone takes out a permit. Sometimes we're not aware of it. So if you feel our records are not accurate, then you need to contact the assessor's office and ask that we go over our records, and we'll communicate with you to get those records straight, because those need to be accurate in order for us to do the comparability tests.
Thank you. And I believe Director Bodek has something to add on.
Yes, I do. Hi, thank you, everyone. For questions related to like-for-like rebuild, we do, in fact, take multiple sources of information. So if you think your house is really 1,000 square feet and it was originally assessed in the 1930s at 720, we know that sometimes those drawings are not accurate. So we take a combination of building permits, Google aerials from the 1990s, the 2010s, and the early 2020s. And we also look at building permits as well to see which one provided you the greatest square footage. So if we look at an aerial and it shows that you had 1,000 square feet, we will actually consider the like-for-like rebuild to be 1,000 square feet.
Thank you. And our next question is for the Army Corps. Why is it critical to break up clean concrete at the Altadena golf course? Would it be safer to remove it from the area and break it up at a professional concrete recycling plant?
Okay, that's a good question. So it goes back, a lot of it goes back to one, we're not going to do anything that's unsafe. And I know there's a lot of questions about that, but ultimately, if it is unsafe and our data shows that what we're doing is unsafe, then we'll stop doing that procedure. But as we continue to ramp up operations, right now it takes our trucks roughly 2 to 3 hours to go back and forth from the concrete recyclers. That time can be significantly cut down, as well as the volume at which we're transporting gets cut down. If we're able to reduce that, pack it efficiently, and then load those onto larger trucks, which then can make the longer haul out to the concrete landfill. So those smaller trucks can then cycle back to the properties quicker. We won't need to have as many trucks on the road, which will be safer road conditions for everyone else. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Another question for Public Works this time. We now live in Roy Street in Altadena, and no one has come by to pick up the large items and debris left from the storms. The trash company told me a month ago that they have no more room in the Saturday pickup and that they would be back on Monday. It's now been a month. who's going to remove these items and when?
Thank you for the question regarding trash collection. I understand that this past month, there were several annual cleanup events. So these are events where bulky items and other discards residents wish to place at the curb. The waste hauler, UWS, will pick it up in unlimited quantity. So this has been going on every Saturday for the month. If there were any materials left behind, we will be sure to canvass the neighborhood, make sure to pick up any remaining items. If for whatever reason the material is still there, please feel free to contact UWS or contact Public Works at trash@dpw.lacounty.gov. But regardless, we will send somebody out there on Roy Street to go take a look. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is for the Army Corps and Public Works. It says, I understand from the Army Corps of Engineers that neighborhoods around community spaces will be cleared first. For schools, will a 250-yard radius be cleared prior to the start of school in August?
I can take that. So we're working with Public Works as well as Cal OES and determining which schools we will prioritize our debris cleanup for. But yes, that's our goal, is to be able to do the debris cleanup around those schools prior to school starting back in August.
Thank you. And transitioning now to a question received in our live Q&A function. As a reminder, if you would like to ask a question and you are watching on Zoom, please join us. If you are watching on YouTube, excuse me, please join us on Zoom and submit your question using the Q&A function on your screen. Residents are asking whether public health thinks that they should or should not return home if they live near the golf course.
Yeah, thanks so much, and thanks for the question. Totally understand all of the concerns that are being raised, and let me address a few of them now. You know, it is our understanding that the planned operations by the Army Corps of Engineers are following the strict safety guidelines that are set out by federal and state regulation. You know, their approach, as they have described it, includes a number of safety measures, including fencing, most importantly, air quality monitoring and dust control. I believe the Air Quality Management District, AQMD, or in our part of the state called the South Coast AQMD, they are working with the Army Corps on monitoring the air, looking at what those air monitors, as Colonel Abichal just said, looking at the results of those air monitors that are continuous. They have pledged to post the air quality monitoring results, you know, as they get them, to ensure that folks know that the exposure in the surrounding areas are being well protected from dust and from air quality problems. And so that is our understanding. As you know, we do not regulate the Army Corps in this function, but you know, we've heard from them, we've understood the measures they're taking, and appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Public Health, Dr. Mahajan, this question is also for you. Testing ash in my house found high lead, chromium, and other heavy metals. Has any testing been done to see how far this toxic air spreads? And what precautions should families take who live in the surrounding areas?
And thanks so much for the question. And first, I want to thank the person who posed the question for looking at the data. Really, it's wonderful to hear that people are accessing the data that the Air Quality Management District is posting online in real time, showing what their stationary and their mobile monitors are showing. And you know, the question is a good one. And in fact, we have put the question to the AQMD themselves, who do the testing, to get an answer. Unfortunately, on short notice, we couldn't get someone to join us today. But what I can say is that, AQMD has indicated to public health that when they are concerned that there is a danger, they issue a press release, and they do this routinely when there is an exceedance or an escalation of a dangerous level of any kind of problem in the air. That said, in terms of how far has this toxicity spread, the AQMD has informed us in public health and all of us that how they decided where to put their stationary monitors was based on having their mobile monitors drive a really large circumference around where the fires were. And based on the results that they got a few weeks ago from all along since the fire from their mobile monitors, they decided to place their stationary monitors where they felt like there was the greatest risk of exceedances of danger and toxins. And so that's all into phase 2 of debris removal. As you know, and as we've advised, when there's a lot of wind, that is the time we all need to take care, especially if we're within 250 yards of fire debris. And when I say fire debris, I mean fire debris in near burned structures. And so the plan to improve the air quality is quite simply the completion of phase 2. So as we get closer and closer to the control and removal of fire debris from burned structures in the burn scar, the safer the air is going to be, because we're taking care of, the Army Corps is taking care of the toxins therein. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Doctor. And this question is for the Army Corps, and sticking to the theme of air quality monitoring. What level of air monitoring is being done, and who is going to be doing the monitoring specifically related to the Altadena Golf Course? And how will this information be shared with the public?
So we have our own monitors that we have, and actually I'm going to post the website here in the chat. And so this is, it just went live today. Again, we have not begun doing any sort of reducing operations yet. So that is the live data that comes up, and it shows exactly what the levels are. And then we also share this data with the California Air Resources Board and AQMD, so they can post an overall aggregated air quality for the entire area.
Thank you, Colonel. And I see that that link has been added to the chat. For those that are on with YouTube, we'll make sure that this link gets added to the recovery.lacounty.gov website for easy access. Moving on to our next question, and that question is for Regional Planning, Director Bodek. Are there any restrictions on rebuilding utilizing prefabricated building materials / methods to lower costs within like-for-like construction parameters?
The short answer is no. That's the good news. So there's a few different methods that you can use. One of them is buying a prefabricated home, which is also called a manufactured home. That is actually those components or the whole of the home are manufactured off-site, and they are inspected and certified by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. And there's a little sticker that gets put on either the individual wall components or the whole home. You would need to get from the county a permit for the foundation, and then permits for the utility hookups, whether it's the sewer, the electric, and your water. But you would not have to get those wall components or that whole manufactured home inspected or plan checked by the County of Los Angeles. So it is a legitimate option to control costs. And if you're concerned about construction materials, it is a legitimate option for you. We will be having some additional information that the state just provided us last week. We'll be posting it on our website at the LA Recovers website. So happy to also share it with this group, and we can make that available at future meetings as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Going back to the Army Corps, A resident says that their home was visited and work was done, but they were not notified or informed that people would be working at their home prior to their arrival. How do we know? And the question is, how do we know that unnecessary work is not being performed for which our insurance may be billed at a later date? And why were we not informed in advance that someone would be working?
Yeah, so typically prior to your phase 2 debris removal, we'll send a team out to your site to do a hazard site assessment, as well as do asbestos testing, and if required, asbestos abatement. That is all done essentially prior to you receiving a 72-hour phone call. And so that is part of that right of entry when you say that you want to have that debris removed from your house. This is kind of the preparatory actions that would take place beforehand. Once that area is available for us to bring equipment, essentially the asbestos has been abated, then you would receive the phone call and we would talk about doing a 360 afterwards. But we do not call prior to doing asbestos testing or abatement. Yep, so.
Thank you. And this question is also for you, Colonel Abichal. One of the concerns we are hearing is whether the concrete that is being brought to the site is considered clean. Again, this goes back to the Altadena golf course. How are you determining if the concrete is appropriate for staging and reducing at the golf course?
Yeah, so the concrete that is there is that comes to the golf course. Again, it's not the fire ash debris that would essentially be on top of it. It is rinsed on site and then tested for asbestos prior to coming to the site itself. If there is asbestos, that is abated prior to the phase 2 debris removal.
Thank you. And our next question is for Public Works or the Army Corps. Who do we contact or go to for our debris removal certificate? I tried talking to Building and Safety if they want to see the certificate first.
Thank you. So there are two options. So if you choose to opt out of the government-run program, then a final inspection would need to be conducted by your contractor, and then a final permit closure will be issued by the county through the EPIC LA system. Now, if you choose to opt into the government-run program, then we'll work directly with Army Corps for the final sign-off, and then you would receive a final certificate from the county. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. This question is also for you, Emiko. I noticed that street sweepers are kicking up clouds of dust. It appears that they are not using water to clean the streets. Can Public Works ensure that the operation of street sweepers in the burn zone are not making the dust and air quality problem worse?
Yes, we can certainly ensure that street sweepers are not kicking up dust. They should be using water. Maybe they're not using enough. We'll ensure that maximum water usage is applied. And we believe that the street sweepers, if they slow down their speed, that should help with not kicking up dust. So we'll be sure to look into that. Thank you for the comment.
Apologies, I was on mute. This question is for the Army Corps. Will there be monitoring of noise, and how will the noise be mitigated and addressed? Relevant to the golf course.
Yeah, so we are already beginning with the noise monitoring right now. And if we do see it exceeding any sort of inappropriate levels, then there are certain things that we can take in terms of, right now we have some noise mitigation that we can, equipment that we can put around some of our equipment. But again, we haven't gotten to those levels yet, but we're keeping a close eye on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Colonel. This question is again for you. Are debris removal trucks not required to cover their truck beds after dumping a load? As I'm driving, I see particles flying out of these empty truck beds.
Empty trucks typically do not have their a tarp over top of them, but I think the best thing to do would be, if you do see something like that that doesn't make sense, if you could take a picture of the truck or the license plate, and then actually starting, I believe throughout this week and next week there'll be a placard on the back of the truck that will have the Army Corps of Engineer logo. And if you can notify us of those trucks that seem to be having those problems, we can take quick action on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Colonel. And this next question is for our representative from SBA and FEMA. Are the SBA business loan and the FEMA assistance deadlines that are happening today, quote, you must complete and submit by today, the 31st deadlines, or are they initiate your application by the 31st, even if it's not finished today deadlines?
I will defer to Hero first, and then I'll follow up.
Okay, thanks, Corey. This is Hero from FEMA. So just on the FEMA side, that means you do need to submit the application. It doesn't mean you need to have all of your documentation. So, even if your insurance isn't all settled yet, please go ahead and submit your application so that we have an application on file for you, and we can conduct that follow-up as you progress through your recovery process. And pass it over to you, Corey.
Yeah, thank you, Hero. And the same for the SBA. What we want is for you to complete the SBA application, not have it withdrawn, not partially complete. All we need you to do is actually submit the application. Again, you're under no obligation to take the loan, even if you're approved. I cannot let that resonate enough, is that just go ahead and complete the application, see what you're eligible for, and you can determine 3 months, 6 months down the line what you want to take. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Transitioning over to a question from our question and answer function. This question is for the Army Corps. Can you please describe what the different pink dots on the Army Corps signs on our properties mean? I think they're related to asbestos, but I can't decipher the quote unquote code.
Yep. So we have multiple subcontractors working for us, and as they do the hazard site assessments and the asbestos testing, they've been marking the signs with a pink dot. It just shows that the testing has started. It doesn't indicate any sort of results, but it just means that it has been tested for asbestos, or it's in the process of being tested for asbestos. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Our next question, again, I believe is for you, Colonel Abichal. My trees were initially tagged by the Army Corps for removal due to dangerous condition. Now some of the tags have been removed by someone with no notice to us. These trees are severely burned and or are so close to the house footprint that they create danger for rebuilding and debris removal. Can we please speak with the arborist or the Army Corps to take these trees down?
Yep. So I think that's a special circumstance. What I'd ask you to do is just to call our call center with your address and potentially what your specific circumstances are. Our call center number is 213-308-8305. And we could talk through that individual circumstance on an individual basis. Thanks.
Thank you. And we have a question that I believe is best suited for our public health representative. And that is, my lemon tree is full of lemons. My home is still standing and we are cleaning for smoke damage. There are burned properties all around us. Are those lemons safe to eat?
Thanks so much for the question. We know from wildfires that occurred in Northern California that in general, most of the fruit trees in the burned area, especially fruit that's sort of just ripened now, is likely safe to eat. You got to just clean it off, make sure it's completely cleaned of ash and soot or anything like that. And I assume that's not the case here on the property that you're talking about, because it's surrounded but not actually burnt. But in general, in future seasons, it would be important to make sure that you have an understanding of the soil itself and what's in the soil. There is a small risk of, fruiting in future seasons being affected by chemicals. But again, it's a very small risk and probably not one to be too worried about. I would ask that you go to our website at LACounty.publichealth.gov. And there we have additional information and links to more expert reviews of the data on how to think about consuming produce when you live near a burn scar. Thanks.
Thank you. And we have time for one last question, pulling again from our question and answer function on our screen. And this question is for Dave Ford with SoCal Edison. With the discussion of undergrounding of electric picking up, can the SoCal Edison rep offer a conservative time frame for how many years it would take to underground all the lines in Altadena?
Well, thank you for the question. And again, thank you, Supervisor Barger, for your commitment to restore and rebuild Altadena. We're looking at designing a much stronger grid in Altadena. We're actually looking at undergrounding as well as undergrounding as we do grid hardening with other types of measures to ensure that the grid that we're building back is a stronger and a safer grid. Now, the undergrounding process this is not something that's going to take be done overnight. It's going to take a while before we start seeing activity in the entire area of Altadena that has been in the burn scar. But what we have been doing is restoring service for customers where their houses have not been damaged. The design and implementation of undergrounding has begun in some areas, and we're continually looking at our process of how we can expand that throughout the burn area. I don't think that this is going to be a 6-month to a year process. It could be longer, but this is something that is the highest priority to us, is to restore, rebuild Altadena back better.
Thank you for that, Dave. And that is all the time we have for today. For those of you who are on Zoom, when you exit this meeting, you'll have the option to provide your email address if you'd like to be signed up to receive updates from the county's Coordinated Joint Information Center. For more information or to ask any additional questions, visit your local disaster recovery center or visit us online at recovery.lacounty.gov/Altadena. Thank you, everyone.